Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for the month of May. Today we're talking about our topic is breaking free from the porn addiction and overcoming shame and reclaiming dignity. This is not our first time that we've done this particular topic, but we thought we'd revisit it because it is something that is coming up a lot lately. And we want to really just, help people that is having behaviors with this particular topic. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I just want to let everyone know as well that this isn't about it's about having compassion. It's not about pointing fingers or anything like that, because that's not where the healing is. The healing comes when we can rise above that and see beyond the behavior. And I think that's really an important part of healing of any sort, really, in any way. So today we've got with me Pamela and Aisha. Welcome. And sisters, when you're like Aisha and Pamela, that is, just jump on. Oh, sorry, and Asmal. Asmal's here as well. Sorry, Asmal, my apologies. So yeah, just jump on the mic when you feel free, when you want to jump in, inshallah. And as we know, or we may not know, pornography or porn addiction is a silent epidemic. It's hidden beyond, it's hidden. We don't always know when people are struggling with it, because it, can be done behind closed doors. It's quite accessible now on the screen, and it's affecting many Muslims actually, both young and old, male and female too. And as I said, it thrives in the secrecy, in the silence. And what is also associated with that comes with that is the shame and the guilt, from the individuals. And that's what we want to, get past, because as I said before, the healing comes when we rise above that, when we can see that we're human beings, and when we have that self-compassion for ourselves. I think that's where healing lies. And as we know, like any addiction, it disconnects a person from themselves, their loved ones, and also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as I said before, it's not about pointing fingers, it's about understanding and having that healing. So I don't know from here if you want me to continue, lovely sisters, or if you want to jump in with that as well.
I think we just want to recognize, of course, that we understand the human struggle. I mean, as Muslims, we understand the struggle with anything. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with desires. And this is what our test is on this dunya. And we all have our own tests, to different and varying degrees. And this is a big one that's affecting our ummah right now, because it is so easily accessible, so easy to be sort of hiding away with your phone or whatever, and consuming this type of content. But I mean, and many of us know the rulings, understand the hadiths, understand what the Quran says, understand all of that stuff. So we're not going to sort of natter on about that. But it's really coming back to, we do understand the human struggle. And we do understand that it's difficult, when we're striving to control, in this test of faith, and falling into sin, and making us feel like a bit of a hypocrite, because it doesn't discriminate in relation to your level of imam either, like you can, and that's a common message, I think, and a common misconception. I know from sort of, personal dealings, that there's people of varying levels of their religiosity, if you want to call it, that are still struggling with this same, or having this same struggle. And recognizing that this struggle makes us human, and we've got brothers and sisters that can help through any part of wherever you are in this journey. And and yes, coming back to Allah, and remembering Allah is one of those aspects. But it's that full sort of wholehearted, deep connection that we're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. And you mentioned about like level of like faith, and so there's usually that kind of judgment comes in, the self-judgment or judging someone who and thinking, oh, you're a Muslim, like you believe, why are you doing this? And yes, like if it's a reflective question, it is a valid question, but not an intellectual question, because for everything, if it points us back, we understand that we're going to face trials. Like um, we're going to face trials, and so there are people, and I think that shows to a very high level of faith, that have been in it for long and have not given up. There's that resilience in, yes, I have the intention to stop. I'm seeking the help. It's still happening, but I'm not giving up. So there's that resilience and showing up moment by moment. Because there is the tendency to just focus on it, like be hyper focused on the behavior itself and stop looking at, other things. So the more we hold on to it, then the more it consumes. And but being able to zoom out and because usually it doesn't happen in a the metaphor I have now, like it's not a metaphor, a kind of metaphor I would say, like in a hadith that says that one is about travel. If two people are traveling, if three people travel, and there is no leader, the leader is shaitan, like or something like that. So addiction, like thinking about it, it comes, I mentioned disconnection, like Pamela. So when we're not connected, that's what makes room for everything. Or when we don't see our connection, because Allah is always near, but when we feel disconnected, then we like sort of fall into these things, and when the self-judgment comes, we keep hiding. So there's a common theme, like there's a common theme in that, even where we've seen religious, like very maybe imams, and all that, like people who are leading, and it seems like from that place of disconnection and self-judgment, we tend to hide, like from that guilt and shame. And the more like we hide and we're alone, the more isolated we are, when Islam wants us in community. And so once the behavior starts, then the disconnection continues, because people, how can I admit this? But then when we're seeking help, when we seek help, it's not that we're disobeying Allah by publicizing, the behavior, the unwanted behavior. No, like it's seeking help. And in seeking help is seeking the connection. And I think eventually what that tends to do is I think the intention is connection in the way that Allah is pleased with. It's a command of Allah, and then so it brings us, and Allah can bring us back to that connection. And so through
Yeah.
insights, we know that through insights from moment to moment, like that's where the guidance comes from.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And as you were speaking, it just reminded me of something that Catherine has discovered just recently. Because of course we're within Back to the Future, whether it's addiction, whether it's relationships, whether it's parenting, we do come back to that connection before correction, right? So it is bringing it back to correction. And she's also now sort of
Bring it back
had,
to connection.
yeah,
Connection. Connection.
yeah.
Not correct.
Oh, did I say correction? Did I? Sorry.
Slip of the tongue.
Because I was already thinking of the next
Yeah.
the next thing, which is, so bringing it back to connection. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
So when we're disconnected and we're wanting to bring it back to connection, we tend to sort of miscorrect or misconnect to something,
Yeah.
which is, because we're trying to we're using something in place of something else. It is in that's need, a soul need, a soul craving, as it were.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you were speaking there, I remember what we were discussing earlier on today about chasing feelings. So when, we're chasing the feel good, like what has to happen is we get something, we feel good, and then it's temporary. And so it's
Yeah.
about like
That's
chasing
right.
the desires and then the numbness. And when that numbness comes in, it sort of is a deterrent to the connection, like, to say the true connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for correcting me on that, Danielle.
Sorry.
I didn't even notice. Because it is a key point. It is a key point. But yeah, what you're saying is beautiful, Aisha, as well.
Yeah. I think that like we always want that instant gratification, like the instant results, the instant whatever it is,
Well, that's the nature of it, isn't it? I mean, even the behavior around text messages these days, I mean, of course, all of us here are what's considered Generation X. So we didn't grow up with mobile phones. We grew up with, if you wanted to know where someone was, you just didn't, right?
That's right.
Or if they were kids, you just went where all the bikes were in the town or whatever. That's where your kid's likely to be. So it's everything is instant. Everything is just right there at our fingertips.
That's right.
I think we've got to reflect, and I ask everybody perhaps in the room right now is that, what's the feeling that you're having when you've sent a text message or sent a message to someone that you're expecting a reply? What's your feeling until you get that reply? It's not good. There's a level of anxiety, there's a level of angst. All of a sudden the thinking kicks in of, oh, maybe they misinterpret it. Maybe they don't want to speak to me anymore. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
We're living in a time where everything is instant.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. That's a problem in itself, because we don't have patience anymore.
No, that's right. And that comes from like our own ego, not having that. What our soul really wants is, as we were saying before, is that connection really, that soul to soul connection with others. And obviously with Allah, that's without a doubt. And sometimes we do have that disconnect or that misconnect where we're linking that connection to something or someone else. And that's not how it works, yeah. Sorry, Asma, did you want to add anything to that?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, when Aisha was speaking, there was this kind of cycle that she spoke about that reminded me of because we are talking about addictions, and any form of addiction. When you're on your road to healing, road to recovery, there's always this once in a while you find yourself relaxing. And this is no exception. This, I hear that it's from experience of clients, this is one very hard one to overcome, especially depending on the connectiveness, or how do I put it, the lack of connection, the distance of the individual, or the willingness of the individual to.
Oh, I think we lost you, Esmail.
Yeah, I think it's the deep connection. Of course, you get
to heal
connection
or to stop.
Oh, there you
Because
are.
am I
This happened the last
disconnected?
time. Well, you went away for a little bit, but you're here now.
Okay.
Just at the peak of it as well.
As usual, subhanallah.
I know,
Subhanallah.
subhanallah.
So we have this when they relapse, when relapse happens, there's this, of course, there's the disconnection, and one feels like, oh my God, I've lost it. There's this self-judgment and all that, and trying to find themselves back. Also, this also has something to do with the circle around the support, especially when it's like a youth, or when someone there's a significant other around that could offer the support. Sometimes when that isn't happening, when that person isn't yet really in full connection with Allah and with himself, you find that there's this vicious circle, because they feel terrible, and now they want to, I need something to ease the feeling, to make me feel better. And then there's this one thing that is like the coping mechanism for them, and they reach out for it again. So that circle, without this connection, is very important. When we find our connection back to Allah, when we find our grounding back to ourselves, and in addition, this is a beautiful, beautiful icing on the cake when we have a support system around us, people that are understanding and not judging, people that are supportive and really trying to understand what you're going through and support you, and like help you back to your connection with Allah and with yourself. It makes it a whole lot easier, because relapses, sometimes they can make or mar the process, depending on how they're handled, or how the person or the family sees the relapse. Because I think I've had that experience recently with a client. When they relapsed, the parents were like, the father was saying, I knew it. He's just deceiving you. He's not even willing to change. And the boy was really, really going through a whole lot of emotions, and like feeling like a failure, because he was on a road to recovery and something happened, it hit him back. So that little support could really go a long way.
That's right.
SubhanAllah.
And I think that's it. A lot of people see the behavior as the person, or the person as the behavior, and they get stuck on that, they don't really want to change, or even for themselves, like, I'm back to where I started from, not realizing that shame and that guilt keeps us on that, on that spiral downwards, and that's not where the healing comes from. And for others, like, to see past the behavior, because the behavior, in this case, porn or any addiction, is just a symptom to what's going on, a disconnect somewhere else in some way, shape, or form. And obviously the shaitan as well uses that to keep us stuck, thinking that there's no way out. And what I love about what we do with Back to the Fitra is that it's not about adding anything more to our plates or anything like that. It's subtractive psychology. And so what that means is that, instead of, it's not like the step system or anything like that. It's really about coming and, taking things off of our mind, because, all that shame, guilt, and any other sort of thoughts that are going on, it's just adding to the thoughts in our mind that, you know, keeps on going and rotating around in our heads. You know, it could be from like, you know, on a barometer, no, what do you call it? A speedometer. You know, if we're going at, let's say, 100 thoughts per minute, that's a lot of thinking. And when we can take that thinking away, like reduce it, what happens is that we become present and we become connected, more connected with Allah, because we're not focusing on the addiction or the past or the present or the shame and the guilt, you know, all of that. We're just focusing on ourselves right now. And if there are stuff ups, and there's gonna be stuff ups, you know, there are gonna be relapses, as Asma said, but it's about noticing that you're human. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to slip up from time to time. But that doesn't define us. That doesn't define us. And that, I think, when we can accept our faults, the more we become connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ourselves, those slip-ups become a little less and less. We're no longer focusing on the heavy and the heaviness of it all.
Yeah, we're
The,
flowing.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
I'm
only
there
the
in
only
the
steps is one step at a time in this
yeah,
Of
be in the
course.
moment. Yeah, be it in the present moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Susan was saying there earlier, and Pamela, I think you asked about the feeling, like the feeling of being left unread. And you know, that's like interesting thing. When we were doing the program with children, not the upon addiction, but like the accountable to Allah program with children, because you know what we want to do with children, they're already, you know, on their fitra. We want them to want to protect that. And so in our program with them is letting them see their connection with Allah so that they're able to, you know, ignore everything else, and once they're focused on that. So when we went on to the, you know, feelings, things that make you feel good, and so there's that tendency sometimes with the devices, because you know, when we receive a text message, someone has given us attention, it feels good and we want the attention again. When we send a message, we're seeking attention. When it doesn't come, like it doesn't feel good. So for our generation, because we had all that, I guess in nature, like we are more connected at that time in with nature, with each other.
We knew what
So
boredom
we know
felt
the
like.
difference. Yeah, we know what it felt
We know
like. And
we know what boredom feels like,
yeah,
and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, in today's day and age, they just cannot they cannot have any, you know, stale time, any downtime, any idle time.
yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
fill it with something. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry, go ahead, Aisha. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's like filling it in because you know, there isn't so we know, like we know the difference of how that feels and how this thing that looks like is feeling good, because one of the things that our body tends to do, you know, even like biologically, neurologically, when we feel bored, we mistake it with the need to get attention, to seek like with the porn, when like it's just sitting with the feeling. But when we know how the other thing felt like, we can sort of feel the difference. And of course, even for them here, it's not that it's totally devoid of it. Um, it's just that like it's so easy for them to think this is feeling good, because I know like when we're doing the program with my son and I ask what makes you feel good, oh, watching TV, playing games. And so it's finding opportunities, you know, letting them observe as well. When we have, you know, maybe a really fun time, like a simple fun time, like as a family connecting, and then being able to let them observe how that feels like versus how this feels like. So it's a process. And and I think eventually, when the insight comes, then we make the right choice. So because that is the free will that Allah has given us. Because no matter in whatever situation, whatever time, Allah is always there. There are always different challenges with each time. Maybe in our own time too, we had our own challenges. And but right now, because this is what this age has brought, and this is what our kids are going through. So it's sort of, it forces us, I guess, to say, like, where the, there's this saying with the teachers about either you're not a stage on the you're not a sage on the stage, you're a guide by the side. So even with our children, it's able
I
to
like
hold
that.
space for them because they have their own guidance from Allah. So
Yes.
it's given the safe space so that they feel that guidance and they're guided by Allah, not supported by us, I would say. What our role anyway, our role as parents. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I guess I just want to
Beautiful.
touch base on, I mean, most of you here probably know this already, but this is what what we're trying to sort of understand is that, the nature of pornography is to actually, distort our, natural sexuality to, it harms our hearts, it desensitizes the soul. It just destroys relationships, even the relationship with ourself. It's a spiritual poison, directly to the heart.
Yeah.
It distracts us, well, any addiction really, it distracts us from our salah, which is our basic, our very, very basic thing, and and like I said, it just rips families apart, rips marriages apart, rips all relationships apart. So when we're talking, about, protecting our kids, it's about, having age-appropriate conversations with them around this sort of stuff. I mean, not porn in general, but, to give them the correct idea of what a human-to-human relationship should be like. I work with, with pre-married people who want to get married, or people that are married already. I mean, I think nearly all of us work in that field here as well. And this is a big problem. It's a big wedge, the unrealistic expectations that this creates in relationships, in intimate relationships, that what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, well, it offers temporary relief, but it causes a big time
or the
damage.
pressure that it, because I'm not going to put one gender in here, because we have we have an issue with both genders. And it's the pressure that one will put on the other in order to perform like that. Do you know? And it's very, very unrealistic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
yeah. And when you said about that, the natural desires, I think we tend to confuse intimacy and just put it into the physical, because when we talk about intimacy, it's a whole, like, I guess it's a, we as human beings, we have this physical part, we have this, we have a spiritual heart, we have our intellect, so the stimulation, that comes, like, each, and it's whole, like, it's not one. So when we focus on just the physical, or I guess, so we might tend to mistake, that for intimacy, because when people we've spoken to, when when they're going to porn, or even like the more deeper addictions than porn, like going to sex addiction or love addiction, it's all sort of looking for intimacy. When the greatest intimacy, I would say, it's our connection again, like with Allah, and like knowing ourselves, and that keeps the balance. And so when we think that that's the only way to get intimacy, then we sort of keep moving towards that, satisfying the physical, I would say, like all the emotional.
I think we should use intimacy quite loosely in that, because
That's right.
because
Yeah,
it's not that, connection, that two people coming together and actually connecting with each other. Because I'm getting feedback, particularly from some of the couples that I work with, is that it's like they're not even in the room with me. Like, their body's here, there's the demand there, but they're somewhere
empty.
else in their mind. It's just this blinker focused on on pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's yes, we are all seeking intimacy. I think we and even with this distorts what
Yeah,
intimacy even is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because what happens, because that's not like a real person, as you say, it's something it's created, either thought created or graphic created. And what it does lead to in a lot of the cases, because from porn, then in a lot of people, it has gone on to like sex addiction, because it's usually, and that is also not intimacy, because the only connection is that physical gratification. And in Islam, the like satisfying that even if it's the physical, it happens within marriage. If it And again, not so even like with a real person, then it's not true intimacy, because we're only seeking something in which I don't know, like the words are not coming like right now.
Are you saying
Yeah.
when we're committing zina, you're talking about here, sis? Like
Yeah, because
yeah.
even like porn is zina of the eyes, and we know that, like,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, and then the more it grows, it turns into the actual one, because everything starts with
It
maybe
is a slippery slope. Yes,
yeah, it's a
absolutely.
slippery slope, so it goes like all the way. And even when it goes like with a real person, like that's not intimacy. So it's being able to even understand, and like using like earlier on was saying English words, like sometimes like when we use like find when you find even, I guess maybe connection, like it's everything. Like when we talk about connection here, it talks about what we're really seeking, and then where we get lost, and then it leads to where we get lost, seeking that connection, seeking it in the wrong place, or with the wrong person, in the wrong place, with the wrong means, or the wrong intention.
Yeah.
And isn't that why we are told to lower our gaze? As it all starts from there.
Yeah.
Even before the porn addiction, even before getting to the porn, the media is not helping matters. No matter how hard you try, sometimes something will just stop. Things will just pop up that are just not healthy for the eyes. And all these things they just start with just a spark. It's just a thought that needs to go in there. And if that thought goes in the line of, yeah, let's go, let's do this, that's it. The shaitan has won. So as much as we can, this is one place that the admonition that to lower our gaze should really work big. We should really think big about this one, because when the Quran, Allah told us not to, He didn't say do not commit. Quran says don't even go near, don't go near it, because it has the tendency to draw you into it. So not trying to avoid anything that would even attract the eyes, tempt the ears, the nose, whatever it is very important, especially in this day and age where everywhere you look, there is something of filth. There is something that's just not desirable, not healthy, I would say, to your faith, to your mental health, because this is something that draws you, that takes you down the drain in terms of the strength of your mental health. It drains you physically, mentally. It keeps, even your alertness goes. So how about just working on not even going there, not like lower your gaze by yourself. If it's something that you have to do intentionally, watch something as little as, well, as we see it, maybe a music video that has a lot of nudity that could tempt. This goes for both male and female. It doesn't discriminate. It's not about just men, what they see. Today, it's the rot is a lot. It's everywhere, and it's with everybody. And we have to do our bit to fight the shaitan. So I think lowering our gaze is a start. Is a big place to start, and that's one thing that we tend to focus on, or we incorporate in this kind of in this way that we do the addiction healing or the addiction recovery mentoring. SubhanAllah, we have everything in our deen, alhamdulillah. It's just when we look the other way, everything goes bizarre, everything goes haywire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that for us.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. And earlier on, Daniela was talking about the lightness because, just as you said there, everything is on our deen. So, and I was remember like what was coming to me as you were talking was awareness. And awareness is not hypervigilance, because when there's the hypervigilance, like we get so tight, I think it gets so heavy and we're relying on willpower. And so we try, and then it snaps back. But when it's awareness, I think it's gentle. Like it's gentle, and it gets to when we keep understanding, the human experience. It's everything. Maybe when it starts, when you say lower our gaze, it starts with taking that pause, like taking that pause, because everything comes with a feeling. Like
Exactly.
it comes with a feeling. Yeah, and yeah,
I like how you
something
said take
occurred
that
to you.
pause. Yeah, no, I like how you said about the
Yeah,
pause, because between the
yeah,
feelings and the thoughts, I mean, they go hand
yeah,
in hand. They can't be separated. And but
yeah.
between the behavior and the reaction, well, they go
Mm,
hand in hand. But normally, people think it's a circle, it's an ongoing circle, and that's how we can spiral down. But actually, between the feelings and the thought and the reaction and behavior, there's that pause, and we can choose then to continue as we're doing, or we can switch our our thoughts or our way of traction, let's say, and it doesn't have to be always like that.
yeah,
Yes.
We know it sounds simple, and it actually is very simple once you know where your feelings are coming from. Yeah.
And that's the
mm,
other thing I wanted to just share as well, is that not underestimating the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we get caught in that heaviness that, who am I? Why would Allah forgive me? Why should he forgive me? And we get caught up in that. But knowing that Allah is all merciful and he'll forgive everything except, associating partners with Allah. So, if we can hold on to that hope, again, I'm talking about the healing because I bang on about this all the time, because I really believe that, with anything, that there is true healing there, like that we can rise above it.
So how
And
do we get that healing, Daniela?
yeah, well, if you or someone else who is looking for that, and in particular, with any sort of addictions, like within the addiction department, there is a link. I'll put it in on the chat in a moment. Otherwise, you can go to our school page. There's a link where you can fill in the form, and that'll come directly to me. And then, we'll have a conversation and just see how or where it leads to thereafter. These are, it's all, like how we're talking here. This is exactly what healing is about. It's not about the heaviness. Healing comes from that lightness, from seeing your humanness in every sort of way. And I think that's the road to recovery. That's the road to healing. It's not about the reminder either of the addiction. Sometimes we don't even talk about that. And I know a lot of people do want to just focus in on that. But again, that's not where the healing lies. That is just a reminder that I am this label. No, you're not. You're a human being having a slippery slope. And that's okay. We all can have those. And yeah, I just really want to focus on that Allah's mercy, because sometimes we forget ourselves. We think everybody else is valid for that, or is can receive that, and we can't receive it ourselves. And I think when we can have that self-compassion and that forgiveness, you know, that's, I think, one of the first steps to that road to recovery. I wouldn't even say recovery, but the road to healing.
Yeah.
You know, because we can just let that go. It's not helping us anymore. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to leave tonight, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful discussion. Jazakallah khair, ladies.
Yeah,
It's good.
jazakallah khair.
Yeah. And of course we do have support for brothers as well. So brothers supporting brothers as well. So
absolutely.
it's not just what you see here, or what you've seen in many of the webinars. It's been very sort of female dominated. It's just, the timings of these things don't work for everybody, unfortunately. So yeah.
I'm just getting the
I
link. I'll
think
put it in.
Weasel had her hand up. You had your hand up, Weasel, like a while back. Was that a question or contribution?
Oh, you had a takeaway. I think she's popped it in the chat. Yeah. So my takeaway, self-compassion is the key. Be gentle with yourself. No sticking to rigid steps. As soon as you realize, be aware, be in awareness. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It is actually that simple. And I know for our intellectual minds, that's not enough. It's not enough. I need steps. I need strategies. I need this complicated process. I need to be punished. Right?
Yeah.
I need it to be hard.
Mm,
It
true.
doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
So adding to that, when you say in awareness, I think what I learned in being in the Back to the Fitra tribe is saying Alhamdulillah, for me is a trigger to awareness. Doesn't matter if it's a blessing, or if I'm feeling, or even if I'm realizing that, hey, I might, like you said, I'm doing it again, or then I'll just say Alhamdulillah, and then that encompasses everything that you've said, bringing you back to awareness, and out of your mind and out of your thinking about the situation. And it gets a beautiful blessing that Alhamdulillah, I've got eyes. Allah gave me the eyes. So why am I choosing to use it for something that's like you said, it's going to make me feel heavy? In this moment, I have a choice to use it to a benefit. So for me, that's the trigger. I use the word Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, our mind and our intellect are such willing servants, right? So if we keep going, why is this happening? Why? It's going to go through all the files, all the database, more than, better than ChatGPT could ever go through a database or the internet,
Yes.
And give you exactly reasons why,
Yes.
And so this is the power of the acts of worship, of dhikr, you know what I mean? Because it's actually giving in that moment that the mind, the intellectual mind, something to do to then allow wisdom to rise to
Yes,
our
yes.
true self. There's
Like you said, you've got the pause, and
Yes.
then okay, now you choose up or down, and this is a proactive. Okay, like you say, it's a form of dhikr. Hopefully, alhamdulillah, with the power of dhikr, it will remind you to the up, instead of going down that rabbit hole of why.
So it just it is a distraction for the intellectual mind to allow us to actually reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reconnect with ourselves and reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, ladies.
Jazakallah khair.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't know what gender everybody is here, so I'm just saying, sorry. Jazakallah khair, everybody. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
It's great,
Yeah.
great talks. I love these things. And yeah, please give us some feedback or a takeaway if you're in the school site, because I put the announcement there. Please, give us a takeaway in the school site.
That'd be great,
Um,
inshallah. Jazakallah
and tell
khair,
us, yeah.
Teach.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair to each and every one of you for being here, for Pamela, Aisha, and Asma for joining me on this panel discussion. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Anything that we've said that is good is from Allah, and anything that we've said that is bad is from ourselves. May Allah forgive us. Anything else you wanted to add, lovely ladies? All good?
No, just
Yeah.
have a good
Alhamdulillah.
morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you in your part of the world. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Awesome. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
alaikum.